Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where this broadcast finds you. I'm going to let everyone get settled in virtually here. It looks like we've got a few still connecting to audio. So we'll let everybody get settled in. Great to see some familiar names and faces there with us today. It's good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's storytelling hour, Native Storytelling Hour. We've got a great speaker today, and just got a couple things I'll go over with you before we get started. I think just about everyone is settled in. This is great. Wonderful. Okay. Well, again, I want to just say good morning or afternoon. I'm honored again to be here with all of you, joining you for our ongoing virtual native storytelling series. Um, as most of you know, my name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the program managers here for the National American Indian Alaska Native Technology Transfer Center, funded by SAMHSA. Additionally, just want to remind everyone that the content of today's broadcast is created by the presenter and does not necessarily reflect or represent the views of SAMHSA, HHS, or the National American Indian Alaska Native ATTC. I also want to just mention briefly that we still know and feel that there is a lot of stress and anxiety in and around this country related to the pandemic that continues, as well as the current political climate. We know that there may be people on the call today that have differing opinions, and we just want to remind everyone that, as always, to be respectful of one another. I'm very proud and honored again to introduce Mr. Kiave Bone, our storyteller for today's event. Mr. Bone will be facilitating our sessions for the next two monthly sessions following this. This is his second story today with our group. Kiave holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and with an interdisciplinary minor in Cherokee studies. He is currently practicing as a qualified mental health professional, working with the community of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. He has held other job titles such as child care worker, cultural coordinator, targeted case manager, and storyteller. Kiave is an EBCI member with the lineage from the Lakota Nation and has Hawaiian ancestry as well. Kiave is the youngest storyteller in his tribe within 6 generations. Today, he's going to be sharing the blanket story with us. So before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that we I'm introducing today to all of you a short additional survey. This is a satisfaction survey. I've not introduced this to the group yet, but there are some of you on the call today that have been attending this event since we began in July. Those that are not with us today that have been on before will have an opportunity to complete this short satisfaction survey. I'll post that along with our standard GIPRA survey in the chat box during today's event. Please take a few moments to fill these out, and we'll give you a second chance to do this via email. We'll reach out to you post-event. But I would really like to hear from you. The nice thing about the satisfaction survey is that it gives you an opportunity to give some written text or some written feedback to us, as opposed to the GIPRA survey that's just more gathering some data. I assure you that both of these surveys, as always, will not identify you in any way, and we will not be sharing any information with anyone outside of the general information we gather from the survey. So look for those two links in the chat box today. would really appreciate you taking the time to fill those out. I value your feedback, and we really want to know how this event has impacted you. Again, we are going to be saving the conversation from the chat, so just be mindful of this as you share thoughts and feelings and comments in the chat box. We'll, of course, remove any sensitive information from this conversation, this chat conversation, before we distribute this. As you all know, you're currently muted. You can use the unmute feature on your device or on your PC screen. If you are having any tech problems, please let me know, and I will do my best to try and solve those. Our next storytelling event will be held Tuesday, March 9th at 2 p.m. Central. So please join us again next time where Kiave will share another story. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to my friend and colleague and our storyteller for today, Mr. Kiave Bowen. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. It's always good to hear you. Send out those messages first and foremost. Appreciate it. My name is Keave Koshedzibon. As Steve has remarked very, very eloquently, is that, I'm one of the youngest storytellers in my tribe within 6 generations, or I am the youngest. And I'm hoping that somebody takes my place soon. That would be really, really fabulous to see. But like you had said, I'm going to tell you guys the blanket story today. Now, I was told this, but not the origin of what where it came from my uncle. And he gave me permission to tell this one, as well as a few others. But it sticks me in a good place, and it's some parts are kind of heavy to hear, but it teaches a good lesson, and I thought it was something that we could really have some conversation about afterwards. So while the story is going on, please feel free to laugh or get angry or whatever comes to you, and if you can hold on to it or write it down if you need to just kick out to discuss afterwards. And I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to be able to talk about the stories and not just tell them and have everybody laugh and walk away. So without further ado, a long, long time ago, there was a young boy. Now, this young boy was very, very alone in this world because he had just lost his father to a great war, and not soon after had lost his mother to a great sickness. So he was alone and very, very unable to do things at this point in his life. But one day he was going about and he had seen one of his elders having a difficult time trying to do something. So he went and he helped this elder out. And in turn, they gave him a nice hot meal. And this was new. It was something big for this young man, this young boy. And he thought to himself, there might be something to this. And so the next day he had went out and he had found another elder that needed help with something. So he went and he helped this elder out, and they gave him a nice hot meal. And so he had found in his mind and his heart that this is something that he should be doing. So as he started to do this more and more often, he would help his elders with mending their fences, or making sure they had enough food, or chopping wood, or making sure that they had things that they needed that they couldn't go obtain for themselves. And in turn, his elders would make him clothes, or mend his clothes, or make him new clothes. They would feed him nice hot meals and give him a safe place to stay at night. But after a while of doing these deeds and going to different elders, all of his elders had ran out of things to give him. So they started to teach this young boy. They taught him how to hunt, how to fish, which plants to use for medicine, which plants to use for food. They told him all the stories that their elders had told him or told them when they were little. And as time grew on, this young boy grew into a man. And so, in his heart, he had always wanted a great big family so that he would never be alone again. So he goes out into the woods and he finds this big mountain. He goes up and he builds himself the biggest house that he has ever seen because he wants to fill it with all of these children. So he goes to his elders and they show him, they prepare things the way that they know how, and they show him how he needs to pray. And he prays and he goes to a neighboring village and he finds himself a beautiful wife. And they find that they like each other and they spend time with each other and they enjoy each other. So he moves her into his house. And one day they find out that they're with child. And this fills him with a joy that he has never known. He takes care of her, good care of this lady, this woman, his love. But on the day that the baby is to come, he loses his best friend, his love, his wife. But on the other hand, this new baby is coming into this world. So he's lost the love of his life, his wife, and his best friend. But he has gained this new baby, a son. And he loves his son. He teaches his son how to walk, teaches his son how to talk, teaches his son how to hunt and how to fish, which plants to use for medicine, which plants to use for food. He tells his son all the stories that his elders had told him when he was a boy. And he teaches his son a great respect for all things and all people. Now, as time goes on, this boy too grows into a man, and he is instilled with this want that his father has for a great big family that he has always wanted and he has yearned for since his parents had died. So he asks his father for a prayer, and his father puts things together the way that he knows how, and they pray. And his son goes to a neighboring village and finds himself a beautiful wife. And the more time that they spend with each other, the more in love they become with each other. They enjoy their time. But this new love needs a place to go. This young boy does not build himself a house like his father did, because he remembers that longing that his father has, and he shares it with him for a great big family. So instead of building his own house, they move in with his father. They are taking care of the house and things that are, supposed to happen in a home with a family. And they find out that they're going to be mom and dad. And this fills him with that same joy that his father has known in his early adulthood. But this new father knows, this is fatherhood. He's got a lot of responsibility on his hands, and he has to man it the way that he should. So this new father is going to spend all of his time hunting and trapping and trying to go find food to make sure that there's meat for the family. And they have a young child on the way. And when it gets there, it is a new boy. And this father, this new one, loves his new son. But he has to spend most of his time hunting and trapping, trying to bring home family the food this family's going to eat. And this new mom, she takes care of things in the way that she knows how in the house. She makes sure that the garden is taken care of. Things are done around the house, and she does her part. But this new grandpa gets to spend all of his time with his new grandson. And he loves his grandson. He teaches his grandson how to walk. He teaches his grandson how to talk. He teaches his grandson all the stories his elders had told him when he was a boy. But as we get older, certain things start to change. Grandpa's hands could no longer hold things like they used to. Grandpa's legs could not carry him as they did when he was a boy. Certain things started to slip from the grasp of this older father, his grandpa. And these new responsibilities that Grandpa was taking care of fell onto the mother of the house for a time. And she took care of these things for a time. But one day these responsibilities got too great for her. She was frustrated. So she went to her husband. She took him to the back of the house. And she said, I married you, not your father. I wish to take care of you and our son, but I no longer wish to take care of your father. You must tell him to leave. And immediately, this new father, he gets upset, and he says, how could you ask this of me? That's my father. This is his house. Who am I to tell him that he needs to leave? You're crazy. You're out of your mind. And she says, well, if you do not tell him to leave, then I will take our son and we will leave. And so this put this new father in a position. So he went to the one with all the answers. He took some time alone, went to his favorite spot that he goes to think about heavy decisions. When he got there, his thoughts become audible. I love my father, but I love my son. My father has taught me everything that I know, but I still have so much to teach to my son. I have spent every day with my father, my life, but I got a long way to go with my son. I love my father, but I love my son. And so he goes back to the house and he tells his wife, you're right. He must go, but I love my father so greatly that I can't bring myself to tell him. I know that if I don't have him gone, then you will go with our son. So I think that you are stronger to do this than I am. So she agrees to this at first, and she does try to let him know and do the things that her husband cannot do. But she finds it too difficult to do this as well. So she calls her son to the back of the house. She says, son, I want you to take this blanket and grab your grandpa by the hand, and I want you to lead him as far south as you can walk. And when you get there, I want you to give him this blanket. He'll know what to do. And then I want you to come back home right away, straight away. I need you to come back home. And this young boy does not understand what his mother is saying. And so he says, well, when's grandpa coming back? She says, son, your grandpa's never coming back. And tears fill this young boy's eyes. And he says, why would you ask me to do this? I don't understand. Why would you tell me to do this? Why am I sending grandpa away? Why do you want me to do this? She says, don't ask those questions of me. Just do as I tell you. And with a heavy heart, his head to the floor. He takes that blanket and his grandpa by the hand, and he leads him as far south as he can walk. Now his mother is waiting on his return, and as she is looking out in the distance to the south, she notices that he starts to come through the woods. She sees something draped across his shoulder, and she doesn't quite know what it is, and she can't make it out. So she starts to go, towards him to see him. As she meets him, she becomes infuriated. She sees that it was that blanket. She says, "I told you to give that blanket to your grandpa. Are you so selfish and greedy that you kept it for yourself? Why have you disobeyed me?" He looked up and he said, "I did as you asked. I took this blanket and my grandpa by the hand, and I walked as far south as I could go. And I did give him this blanket when I got there, but I only gave him half, because one day I'll give you the other half." As she heard her son, she understood. She said, "Okay, son, go get your grandpa." This is the blanket story. I don't know where it comes from, but I do know that our elders are important. They are precious, more than gems to us. The knowledge that they carry conveys us to the next generation with a wealth of knowledge, understanding, and experience that allow us to build upon what we already have. If we do not take the time that is necessary to be with them, to care for them like they care for us, then we will lose everything that they have to offer us. And it's only for our betterment. So please take the time that your elders need and understand where they're coming from and where you're trying to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kiave. I could listen to you tell stories all day. That's great. Um, yeah, I would open the floor now to comments or thoughts, questions for Kiave. We have some time to have some discussion. So I open the floor to elders or others who may have questions.
This is Sharon. I don't have a question per se, but I don't belong, to the Native community per se, but I work in Mashpee on Cape Cod, and so the Wampanoag tribe is next door, and they're known on the Cape, including annual powwows and the like. But one of the things that my agency is involved with from the standpoint of substance use and prevention and recovery per se is a focus on supporting families and also providing a group out here because of the opioid epidemic. And this is just general population, not it's specific, yes, probably to the tribe as well, but and there are a lot of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren in high numbers in Massachusetts in general, but particularly on the Cape, because we also have high numbers with the opioid crisis epidemic as well as opioid overdoses. And they were getting a handle on it a little bit and seeing progress, but the pandemic environment has increased all of that, along with the increases in alcoholism and the like. So I just as you were telling the story, because there was that intergenerational thing going on and all, it just made me think about that and those particular folks, you know, as a group. Also, because even with the families that we're involved with, there, you know, you can be talking any color or creed, if you will, and with a lot of the people of color, you know, Black and brown communities, as well as well as your own, as your story displayed, there's a lot more multi-generational households. You know, so there is, in some respects, not just a greater appreciation of those relationships, but also a greater prevalence, I guess, if you will. So I found it worthwhile, yes, if we talk about, you know, substance use or prevention and recovery, but also, yes, in terms of family counseling or grandparent counseling. So thank you. I mean, that's my point in the long run.
Got a lot of activity. Thank you, Sharon. We have a lot of activity in the chat box as well. There's some interesting comments.
I would like to comment, if I
yes,
may.
yes, Catherine, please.
I'm Catherine Martin. I'm with an employee of the Cowlitz tribe in Vancouver, Washington. I found storytelling probably one of the most powerful teaching tools we can possibly use in both mental health and chemical dependency. Toxic minds will not comprehend concepts, but if I can tell them a story like your blanket story, and then allow them to discuss it, it's far more powerful, it goes deeper, it lasts longer, and the lesson is presented in a manner that people can hang on to for years. I really appreciate the ability to tell good stories. Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Eric Johnson from the Yakama Nation. Can you hear me? I have a question for Kiawe, which is is there any pressure on you as a tribal member to try to get these stories recognized as a best practice so that can get credit for trainings and that type of thing? And I think it's like a big disservice to the Native community to not have many storytelling tribes be able to have these stories be looked at as something more than just tradition or customs, but as a best practice that everyone could utilize in terms of applying it to their lives to treat elders with dignity and with respect. So just wondered if there's any pressure on you that way. Self-imposed too.
Very good question. I feel pressure, at least I have from the time I was probably 8, to further all of these teachings that have been, I can't really say that they were forced on me because I was chosen, but to be given to you, you know, the gift, you only keep it as if you give it. And if you don't give it, then you're not helping people, and you're not, you know, giving the lessons that our ancestors have followed before. But you're absolutely right. There is a stigma in doing this kind of work that keeps you on the ball of what can I do, what can I change, and I've actually created a cross-reference model with the matrix model, one of the most widely used behavioral health methods nowadays in treatment across North America, to cross-reference my cultural traditions, practices, beliefs, and teachings so that I can immerse them within a behavioral health model be able to teach them to not only addiction, but mental health situations to improve, quality of life, understanding our traditional practices, which are being lost, and the reason why we should be doing them, which takes quite a bit of legwork and research to find some science that backs up why it is that we need to wash our face, 7 times with cold water in the morning or on our arms or extremities. And it's to benefit your neurons. They respond better social situations and otherwise if you have something that kind of pre-shocks your system. But being able to address these kinds of means in a way that it falls within a multifaceted understanding, for the public allows for me to do what I do in such a good way, and has created a lot of avenues for me to be able to do this work instead of just, in certain sessions or settings that may not be as fruitful as I would want them to be. But now we're seeing a big boom, and we got some understanding from the CDC. I think it was in 2017 where they had mentioned that a specific locale-based or individualized tribal-based understanding was needed to address addiction problems in indigenous Native communities, to be able to address those needs as it is specified to those people, because that was the best practice. Which, when I read it, just kind of it got my heart soaring. So I really appreciate that question. Thank you so much. I hope I answered it.
I have Alice has raised her hand. Alice, you have the floor. Question
Oh,
for
okay.
Callie. Thank
you so much for your stories this month and also last month. You know, they convey so much, like you said, so much power. One of the many things that stood out to me reminded me of the transmission of knowledge, and a experience that a friend of mine had that demonstrated the really sad and tragic effects when the knowledge is not transmitted. And she was working with homeless teen boys, I guess in Portland. And, these were people who'd been discarded. And so one of the boys had a birthday. They made him a birthday cake. And his response was to go sit under the table because he didn't know what it was, that nobody had honored his day. And so your story, brought that memory up for me, and your story is so wonderful about demonstrating the, I don't know, I vision it as these strands that are tying people together, and sense of security and grounding. So thank you.
I wanted to call on Kenya. Marquez had a question or a comment. I had asked her to share if she's willing.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, let me turn off my phone that just now. Sorry, just in this moment, my phone rings. Yeah, so well, yeah, thank you for calling on me. I was just sharing in the chat, like our Aztec ancestors value a lot the elders, and for us, they were the owners of the knowledge and the root of the community, the society. So we respect them and honor, and they were like the base of our society. And then we're still family based, the Hispanic people, but when the Spaniards came, the Europeans, they saw the elder like, like trash, like people that couldn't work because they made us slaves. So then for them, they were like leftovers of the society, what was extremely sad. And even if we are still very or respectful of the elders, it's we have to recover that because it's needed, it's deserved, and we are in the new societies, in the generations, they are losing the value. We used to talk to the grandparents with respect. Sometimes you know that you have to you cannot like challenge them, you can ask them. And in our community, one thing that was happening that I think it happens also in other communities is the grandparents, they were joining our families and helping raise the kids. So I remember being raised mostly by my grandmother. So I remember those were one of the best moments that I have had in my, when I was a child, because my mom didn't have much time. We were six and she was always busy. My dad was working. So when I was at my grandparents' house, I was the happiest girl in the world. So in earth. So it's, I always feel like a shadow of love. So it was one of my best experiences. So we have to recover that. So yeah, thank you for letting me share. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Hi, my name is Beverly, and I'm in Colorado. I don't know if you can hear me good, but I enjoyed your story. And I have a son that goes to high school, and with Alice, I think talking about homeless boys, he has friends that do couch hopping to different houses. And so he was like, Mom, why do they kick their kids out early at 15? And, I was like, well, we're different here. And sometimes we have a laugh because I have older kids that, go through hard times. Sometimes they move in and they're out again. So I told him we never give up on our children because we see them in and we see them out all the way till they're, leave this world. So that's what we do. And I told him that. He goes, whoa, Mom, I feel sorry for them, but I guess, with your story, it's really good that we honor our elders from when they're young and all the way till they leave. So thank you for that story. It kind of hit my heart because I lost my dad a year ago. So it kind of bring that hurt that I lost my dad and he left at 92. So thank you.
Hi, can I just jump in here, Frank McIntyre? I had my hand up earlier, but it keeps disappearing, so I don't know if you see it, Steve. But I'm in South Carolina, and I represent an RCO, Recovery Community Organization, and we have 5 chapters, and I'm going to tell you the name of my chapter only because it has a Native affiliation. My chapter is called Favor PD, PEEDEE. Very small, localized tribe here in South Carolina. And I have to say, I've lived here now for 22 years. I have never met a person of the PD Nation, if they call it that. They have no state recognition. And I've never encountered, I do a lot of outreach work and peer support. I've never encountered anyone with substance use disorder, as we say, from the PD tribe. So I just wanted to throw that in. But my real point is that I wanted to thank, I hope I pronounce it right, Kiawi, for the story, because it's the reminder, as others have just said, about respect and for our elders. In the outreach and support that we do, we're constantly reminded that the family is part of the problem, and we must always pull the family into treatment and both, prevention and support. And of course, we focus on children, and we talk about, the effects of trauma on the children. And I be honest with you, I cannot think of anything recently where we have been reminded to talk to the elders too. I see no outreach to assisted living. I mean, it could be my fault for not doing more outreach, but I see nothing in the assisted living facilities. And we have a big, well-funded senior center here. I see nothing there. So what it means to me today, and that's why I wanted to thank you, is a reminder that I need, in my recovery world, to make sure to include our elders. I personally have done some outreach and taken people from assisted living to a AA meeting, for example, but just there's nothing ever on the table. So thank you for putting it on the table, as I just think it's a missing population that we just ignore sometimes with our, fanaticism, I guess you'd call it. So thank you.
I can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, and I really appreciate that. There's an awful lot to do with our elders, because chances are most of them are, they don't have that family, or, like the lady that just spoke, and having those memories, keeping them in our lives, helps us move forward in a way that nobody can take anything from us if you have them with you, you hold them. And I really appreciate her for sharing her story, and allowing us to share that space with her. I really appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
Can I add, I went about, I guess it's 5 years now, to the Alcoholics Anonymous International Convention, which is a really big deal. It was in Atlanta, 70,000 people in an arena. And one of the presentations is from the elders. Of course, they didn't identify them as that, but they were people with at least 50 years in recovery. And they had, it was a very structured presentation, and they allotted, I can't remember exactly, 2, 3, 4 minutes. And some of these people had the most interesting stories you could imagine after 50 and 60 years, believe it or not, in recovery. And they were just flat out cutting them off at 3 minutes. And it was very interesting to see 60,000 people booing because they cut off, the most interesting speakers that we had at this convention, the people with 55 and more years. So I just wanted to, remember that publicly, that we were not allowed, if you will, to hear our elders because of constraints for, I guess, technology and, ease of presentation. So it was a good memory. I really loved hearing them, and they were shut off. It was terrible.
Mhm.
Gabby, I wanted to, there was a question in the chat I wanted to put out there to you. It was Dolores. See if I can find her question. Oh, she asks, does the tribe require you to ask permission from the elders to share the stories and teachings with others outside of the tribe?
Oh, I wish it were that clean. No, it would be very easy if it was that way. But certain families here, you're given, or you're not given if your family doesn't have it or they don't pass it on to you. you're given strict understanding of what is to be shared and what isn't to be shared. And sometimes that's explicitly told to you, and sometimes it's just the feel of the room or the air that someone gives you when you talk about a certain subject, that you're okay to talk about it with only certain individuals, and you are not. You never know who is going to be accepted in that space with you until you make a mistake sometimes, or you say something that within shared company sometimes is okay. Like if you're talking about little people or maybe stone code or mythical beings and things like that, you can talk about certain ones, but not all of them. If it's a true story and it's a real story that someone's experienced with, the little people and the Nanahi, which is the immortals, then you around some people you might get this air of drawback, like the air draws out of the room, and they look at you like this, like they're intently listening, waiting for you to say something that you shouldn't be saying, or they will share a story with you, or they'll say, this is what I heard when I was little, and there may be a story within that story that you need to pick up that nobody else is supposed to, because you know certain things that others don't. So I wish it were so explicit and understood, and more people did understand. But even with the work I do, I did go to elders in my community, and I asked, am I doing the right thing? And I explained exactly what I was doing. And I did it on a bunch of different. Oh no, my audio's in and out. Is this better? I talk closer to it, maybe it'll.
Yeah, it's just kind of fading in and out, Kiawe. It didn't while you were storytelling, but it has since we've been doing questions. I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not either. I will be closer to it, and hopefully that'll help. Okay. But having the understanding that you've got a different set of knowledge than people around you, and always having to traverse that, even in the talks of me creating a program and bringing people in, I opted for the oldest individuals that I could find in different communities to come in and sit on the explanation of my program before I even took it to the board of my hospital, to have them, agree that these were the things that needed to be said, or these are the things that should be said. And I said, if there is something that you don't want me to say, I want you to tell me straight out, and I will take it out immediately. But they didn't, so I had to just worry. But everything seemed to be turning out pretty good. Good question.
Other questions or comments for Kiawe? We've got a few minutes left. Really have enjoyed everyone's comments and sharing so far. This is fantastic.
I'd like to share something. Can I speak? Good morning or afternoon. This is Marilyn Begay, and I enjoyed your story, and that the stories that are shared on this way through the webinar, it really helps helps me, I imagine that other people get the help that they need through storytelling as well. It's all about healing and creating community during the time of COVID. Uh, I I I really look forward to storytelling, and I'm so happy to hear another new story. Uh, I long for stories, and I I cross many valleys just to hear a story from an elder. Uh, the 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 stories can be learned and can be shared with others. But certain stories are for ceremonies only, and so sometimes you have to attend ceremonies to pick up stories, uh, and there's a lot of meaning that are lost when it's spoken in English in our communities. So it's real hard for the younger population to pick up some of the goodness, and there's a lot lost through translation. Um, I'm a concerned Indigenous woman that we are losing a lot of our language. And a lot the language is very important in these ceremonies, and since the time of imposition, where the state is taking control of who needs to be educated, making our kids go to school, um, and going through this COVID crisis, it's like returning to our own values, because our kids were home and parents had to learn how to be parents again, because they had their kids all day, uh, and creating that relationship again. And I'm thinking we need more traditional counselors in our communities, sharing these ways, or sharing these ceremonies and learning these ways. We need we need to have our students not just go to school, but also have a traditional school for our young ones. We really don't have a traditional school per se, so just concerned about that. And it's beautiful. Our culture is beautiful, and there's a certain format that comes with it, that spirituality, that special connection, and that we lost. Like what was mentioned is that some of it was lost, and it's sad to say that's true. And a lot of our languages are leaving us too, and it's just sad to be here to witness that. And that I'm just sharing my thoughts and feelings at the moment. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Take care. Love you all.
Thank you, Marilyn. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. We are nearing the top of the hour. I have posted a couple of surveys. One is the satisfaction survey. This is a new survey. If you can't fill it out today, we reach out to you and provide that link again. Would love to hear from you. This survey is different from the standard survey we do. It allows you to add some of your own thoughts and ideas. So please consider both of these surveys that I have posted in the chat box. Other comments or closing thoughts? We have a few minutes left. I want to just certainly say thank you again to Kiave for spending this hour with us and sharing the blanket story. I was ready to keep listening, so maybe we'll have to pick out a longer story next time, Kiave. So thank you again, though, my friend. That was great. Really appreciate it. Well, I think we'll, unless there's any closing thoughts or comments, I think we'll conclude today's broadcast. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We'll meet again on March 8th, same time, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and certainly 1 p.m. Mountain. And I could keep going with different time zones, but I'll stop there. Until then, please, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected. This is Steve Steiny signing off here from the University of Iowa with the American Indian Alaska Native HTC. See you next time.